Welcome everyone to the next episode of the Supply Chainiacs with Chris Kobus, and I'm Glenn Koepke. The next topic that we're going to focus on is around labor in the supply chain. And labor is obviously very broad, but we're going to focus on a few different areas of labor. So if you think about supply chain operations and real-time visibility, there's a number of key functions that labor is relevant to. So first off is warehouse and DC operations from an outbound shipping and inbound receiving standpoint. Second is the transportation team that's working with your carriers. Third is customer service that's working with your end customers. And then ultimately you have your store operations or your retail receiving operations, which are really key. So welcome, Chris. Good to see you again. And would love to hear your take of why is labor such a problem in the industry, and how does real-time visibility help the labor equation?
Yeah, no, thanks, Glenn. I think I tend to think about it when you think of kind of labor management as it relates to kind of the current state of supply chain, especially for those who haven't adopted a real-time visibility yet. I kind of think about it in two different buckets, and you alluded to, I think, both of these in your intro. The first is all the different functions of back office support, right? Whether it's load planning, folks in replenishment, folks in a customer service function, folks in a buying function or planning function. And I think if you look at, kind of the current technology landscape, everything is built to manage and execute against a plan, right? And I think if you look at some of the challenges that are being faced today in regards to labor, like we talked about during our last session, the ability to manage exceptions today in the supply chain is very manual, right? And requires many, many hours. It requires resources, again, whether you're in customer service or whether you're working in load planning, sifting through spreadsheets, on the phone and exchanging emails with carriers and service partners and vendors and all that kind of stuff to figure out where shipments are, when they're going to arrive at their endpoint, working internally with other functions in your supply chain to set the appropriate expectations, with customer service and with the respective customer. So the challenge with that is a lot of hours get wasted, right? In terms of troubleshooting, firefighting, whatever term you want to use, the heroics that are really needed to manage exceptions and manage the challenges that supply chains face on a day-to-day basis, right? I think that's part of the core problem. The second bucket, I think, is more kind of the hands-on labor that you see in the distribution ecosystem at the store level for maybe a CPG company delivering into a retail partner. Where right now, if I'm working in distribution planning and I'm planning for labor across my warehouse, right, I'm operating off a plan that's telling me when trucks are going to arrive to either make a pickup or are going to be delivered, right? And I'm planning labor accordingly, right, in terms of when resources are going to be available, and my ability to understand exceptions in terms of, hey, this truck is no longer going to arrive at 4 p.m., it's going to arrive at 6, as an example, right, it is manual. It's a little bit reactive. I may not be aware of those exceptions. So I over buffer and plan accordingly when it comes to labor, right? Which leads to wasted time. It leads to resources not being at their most optimal, right? When they're on site. So, just some of my perspective in terms of some of the challenges today. But Glenn, I'd love to hear, your thoughts around how a real-time visibility platform can help.
Absolutely, love the thoughts, Chris. A lot of great things that you mentioned. I would agree with all those. In terms of the specifics on how real-time platforms help, first is just that single pane of glass, as we call it at FourKites, or the one version of the truth that everyone talks about, right? That's the holy grail that we're all working towards. And when you think of other technologies, everyone is just solely focused on how do I get one version of truth, that way I don't have waste, right? If I can reduce waste in my supply chain from my resourcing standpoint, I can focus on throughput, velocity, agility, and all these other things that will move the needle forward for me as a business. So that single pane of glass is really critical. In terms of operational value prop, we have a solution called Recommendation Engine, and what it does is it really helps you find the needle in the haystack, right? Just knowing that there's a problem, sure, that's great, right? I think for those that had no visibility, that's that first step. But for the advanced customers, it's what do I do with the needle in the haystack, right? And how do I get those prescriptive insights? And rather than have that analyst or a planner figure it out, what I can do is have the platform tell me, right? So if I have incorrect transit times that are coming into my system, which immediately is going to put my warehouse labor at capacity, how do I fix that upstream in my system, right? And let's not have that planner have to figure it out through technology, through AI and ML. we're able to bring these prescriptive insights there. The other side is on, the 3PL and carrier side. We're not just a shipper focused solution, and nor are real-time platforms, right? If you start with a real-time platform with a shipper, it's a trickle effect, right? They go to their 3PLs and carriers demanding visibility. Those carriers then look for solutions, and so they're a big part of our customer base. And when we look at that segment of the market, is how do we empower their carrier services teams with information that they didn't have before that their customers expect, right? That Amazon effect is real when you're a logistics service provider. And so those are just a few of the examples that real-time platforms are helping in this area. Chris, what are your thoughts on like specific use cases, right? I'm an operations guy at heart. Would love to get your thoughts on, specific day-to-day examples of how this comes to fruition.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. No, I appreciate the points and fully agree. I think from my side, and again, I'll go back to kind of my two buckets that I summarized earlier. I think for the back office support piece, in terms of where I've seen success from current FourKites customers and really the customers that I've worked with, is again, pre-visibility, pre-FourKites, they were managing exceptions in a very unstructured fashion, right? Where different resources based on their tribal knowledge of carriers, of the supply chain ecosystem, we're navigating to try to understand where exceptions were occurring and troubleshooting them accordingly. With the adoption of FourKites, what we've seen is users are essentially creating proactive alerts and notifications. So they're starting their day in their inbox, understanding what issues require their attention, right? And they're easily and seamlessly able to communicate the details of those issues across functions across the supply chain, right? So whether it is a late order that they need to, provide awareness to customer service, or product that's going to be late coming into the production facility, they're able to communicate accordingly. And I think part of the value that our customers have experienced through using FourKites is not just the hour saved of troubleshooting, but improved on-time and full delivery metrics, whether it's improved material availability or whether it's ultimately improved delivery to the end customer. So just some examples there from the back office side. I think from kind of on the ground floor side of things for folks that are working in the production facility, working in the distribution facility, or really working downstream at the store level, part of what we've seen, and I know part of what I've seen from our current customers is a major retailer, and they're using our platform to actually plan labor at the store level, right? We all know, as you've said and alluded to before, we're living in the Amazon Prime age of things where customer expectations are at their highest. And part of what this particular customer is using our platform for is ensuring that the folks at the store level are focused on the customer, not unloading boxes, not filling out paperwork with a carrier or making a delivery. So what they're doing is utilizing FourKites to plan labor accordingly for when those daily or weekly shipments are going to arrive, so they can optimize their ability to service the customer. So just some examples from my side, but really appreciate your thoughts here. So with that, again, thanks for joining today. Appreciate all your insights. This has been great. I just want to thank the audience for joining as well. We'll see you next time on the Supply Chainiacs.
Thanks, Chris.